So I'm the only one that's funding my own campaign on either side, whether it be Democrat or Republican, which makes me feel a little bit lonely and makes me feel a little bit foolish in many ways. My whole life has been about taking. See, I'm telling these young kids, I want to take. I'm greedy. I want to take. My whole life has been taking. And now what am I going to do? I'm going to take, and I'm going to be greedy for the United States of America. I'm going to take.
Donald Trump is famous for slinging mud at his opponents and marking his rise in the polls. Not a speech goes by that he doesn't talk about his dominance in the numbers, often sidestepping any shortfall in the standings. And with Iowa just 6 days away, those numbers are changing almost daily, depending on which poll you choose to believe. So what then is the truth about Iowa voters? Who they want, why they want them, and how we need to be avoiding the pretty shiny things that could mean nothing come next Monday. Our guest is the veteran political columnist for the Des Moines Register, the newspaper of record when it comes to Iowa and politics. Frankly, no one knows more about the ground game and what shakes the political earth in the Hawkeye state than Kathie Obradovich. Kathie, thanks so much for joining us, because you are right at the nexus of what's happening now. And when we think about Iowa, the first thing that comes to my mind, first question, all the polls that we see and we hear about over and over again, are they, in your opinion, an accurate reading of what the Iowa caucus goer and voter wants?
Well, I think that the really definitive answer to that really smart question is sometimes.
Smart answer.
Some
I
polls
like
are
it.
better than others, but I have to tell you, things are moving quickly, and so a poll that may have been incredibly, impeccably accurate today might be ridiculously out of date tomorrow. The Des Moines Register's Iowa poll is known as being one of the best in the country. That has yet to come, and honestly, I don't like to make predictions anyway, but I always want to see that poll before I even venture into that territory.
So, Kathie, what then is driving the changes? One time you'll see a 10-point lead, then a 3-point deficit, then an 18-point lead back and forth. In Iowa, what's driving that?
In part, I mean, if the polls are measuring this accurately, I think people are just changing their minds. Right now, we have maybe only a few percentage points of people who say that they are actually undecided at this point, that they don't have a first choice. But when I go out and talk to people, about a third, and the polls I think reflect this, about a third of people say they could still change their mind before caucus night. I get the feeling that people are actually going to be making up their minds. A lot of them will be making up their minds in their caucuses on February 1st.
Do you think there's going to come an instance, whether it's Democrat or Republican, where caucus goers are going to sit there, they're going to be called on for their vote, for their answer, and they are going to have that slight hesitation, almost like being in the ballot box and saying, do I really want to pull the lever for this person? Maybe I better think?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of them will. And so this is one of the reasons you mentioned the ground game earlier. This is one of the reasons why the ground game is so important at this stage. One of the elements of having a good ground game is having somebody who is for your campaign at every precinct. We're talking about over 1,700 precincts around the state of Iowa, to speak for your candidate and push those people who are sort of wavering on the fence, push them over to your side. This is also, of course, incredibly important because the Democrat process essentially requires people to perhaps choose their second choice if their first choice doesn't have enough support to get a delegate.
All right, so let's talk about then pushing people in a certain direction. Why then did the Des Moines Register pick Marco Rubio and Hillary Clinton to endorse?
Well, so first of all, I have to give you my big fat proviso, or a big fat,
okay.
Which is that I don't take part in the donation or the endorsements. I'm not on the editorial board. But so reading that editorial closely, however, the Hillary Clinton endorsement, I think, had a lot to do with the fact that the editorial board was skeptical that Bernie Sanders was going to be able to get the political revolution that he says he needs to get done a lot of the really radical things that he wants to do. They looked at Hillary Clinton's experience, a more pragmatic approach on some issues, such as college affordability, for example. She doesn't want to give free college to everybody, like Bernie Sanders does, and raise taxes to do it. She just wants to, go on with Barack Obama's idea to make community colleges free. So, and then on the Republican side,
I got about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I got about 30 seconds. Go.
Okay. On the Republican side, Marco Rubio The editorial board saw him as being the best hope for a new Republican Party for the future, moving away from the anger and xenophobia in some cases that we've seen from some of these candidates, and looking at Marco Rubio as somebody who would be a candidate for the future.
10 seconds. It wouldn't shock you at all if the polls, the way they sit right now, mean nothing on Monday, right?
Not at all. Absolutely not. And that's what makes it fun. We don't know what's going to happen. And so it is really, really incredibly exciting to watch.
Now, read Kathie's coverage of the caucuses and more at DesMoinesRegister.com. Kathie Obradovich, a pleasure to talk to you. I'm sure we're going to talk again about something, depending on what happens on Monday. Thanks a lot for joining us. There you go. Stay with us. The Hard Line continues.